friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number, I think it might be 107. I don't know. On the little picture thing that comes right before this video, it will say the actual number. So I might not be correct, but you will have seen it. And it doesn't really matter what the number is, I suppose. Who cares about that? Today is February 20, and I don't know this either, 23rd, I think, 2024. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Thanks so much for joining me. It's gray day, rainy, not at all cold, really. It's in the upper 50s, I would guess. Oh, I can't tell. My watch is in camera mode, and believe me, I don't want to disturb it or the camera will go off. So it's, pleasant temperature-wise, but kind of drizzly and gray, which frankly is a kind of day I don't mind at all. And in July, we wish for such a day. This time of year, we get probably half and half, sunny days and cloudy days. Maybe 1/3 cloudy. But in the summertime, sometimes we go 3 or 4 weeks without any rain. But the weather report and ruminations is not why you came. You came because Flosstube is about cross stitch and Variety Show is about something else. And we'll discover what that something else is in a little bit. But let's start with cross stitch. I will show you what I've been working on. A. Robson, 1897. And I've already done this pillow, finished it last year, and this sampler is what I'm working on. This is by Hands Across the Sea, and it is the retreat project for the Great British Sampler Weekend last fall. And I don't know, I hope this is okay. I think the light actually, strangely enough, is better on cloudy days, but I've taken the border almost all the way fully to the corner on that other side, and I'll make it meet soon. I don't think I've put any more letters in it, but I've worked on this a couple days this week. I really like it, and I'll be sorry when it's done, but I've been focusing on, what's her name, of course, Jane Boyer, but in the meantime, another Jane Thompson, The Scarlet House. And this one I worked on at least once. I could sit and work on this all day. I really could. I don't because I'm, I have other things going on, quilts and book club and traveling and so on, but I do like it. I think I did at least one of those flowers around the top. Of course, I'll eventually pick up speed on this. The verse is, the Jesus permit thy gracious name to stand, which is a lovely sampler verse. And it's all cross stitch over 2. The whole chart is very lovely and pleasant. This is 36 count Sleeping Bear. I think it's by Needle and Flax. I don't know, the manufacturer wasn't actually listed on it. This was an exclusive offered through the Shepherd's Needle and the Homespun Sampler group on Facebook. Last weekend was my designated weekend for stitching on Christmas themed projects, which goes by the hashtag on Instagram, Nativity Sal, Nativity Stitch Along. 3rd weekend of every month. Please join us. At least 3 people now, maybe 4. At least 1 of you, 2 of you said you were doing it, and I saw something by Teresa. So I did get farther on this. The 2 tall buildings there, over on this side of it, are new, and they are not correct. However, I'm going to fudge it because this is not a guide to the road to Bethlehem. It's just a picture. Oh, I should show you this thing. So this whole width is what I'm doing, and these two are blown up. And I think if you wanted to do just this section, you could start about there, and you would get a nice Christmas scene, but I'm here. And one of the reasons I'm not going to worry about it is because you can't tell, and the other reason is because I don't want to worry about it. But what I have found is that this chart is hard to read. It is dots and faintly marked squares. And it's also a paper chart, which I, as you know, use Pattern Keeper quite a bit. So what I did in order to fix this is I found that this right here was the column right about next to the building. It was column 49. And I think I'm relatively correct over here. But starting with column 49, I believed I was off. And so I charted in Max Stitch from column 49 over to as far as I had gotten stitching, what I had actually stitched. And then I moved to the pattern and figured out in the next column or the next area how I was going to fudge it so that it would all eventually fit together. You know, what was I going to do to adjust the actual pattern? And I figured it out, and I've charted another stretch of it. So the next time the Nativity Sal weekend comes along, which will be the third weekend in March, which I believe I will be in town for. I'm looking over at a calendar that's on the refrigerator. I think so. I will work on it and probably make a lot more progress. I only got less than 150 stitches before I realized I was off. But my main focus has, of course, been Jane Boyer 1834. This, as you know, if you've watched my videos, is an antique sampler, which is in the collection of the LeRoy House in LeRoy, New York, which is the LeRoy Historical Society's museum. And my friend Leslie has charted it. And I am stitching the model, and we're going to have an event in October. And I feel like I've gotten a ton done on this. So I finished out the top layer of the alphabet, of the large alphabet, and the second layer is finished, except for there's that light cream colored little doohickey. There's one next to the ampersand sign. And then I followed out some of those inner bands and maybe did some more on the vertical borders or alphabets or something. Really enjoying stitching this. This is 40 count Vintage Country Mocha, which is just delightful to stitch on. I mean, it's a good thing that it's delightful to stitch on because I'm doing the whole sampler under some time pressure. And I look forward to every day, and I do, as you see, I do stitch on other things as well. But I like it. I can tell that I'm going to be, of course, I'm not into the over one yet, and I'll say a word about that in a moment. But I can tell that I'm going to be sorry when it's done. Of course, as I say, once the over one gets going, I might not be sorry when it's done. But my hope is to start on the over one fairly soon, because that way I can work on it along with the regular stitching. So the over one. We have agreed, Leslie and I, that we want to get soie surfine for the over one, which not every shop carries. And I was looking online for a conversion chart between DMC and soie surfine, and I cannot find one. Now, you can find it for DMC to soie d'argent, but I don't even think you can find it to 103, which is also a fine thread. And I cannot find anything for Swasserfine, and many shops don't carry it. So I went online last night. So Leslie has been in touch with Hobby House Needleworks, which is moving their store, their retail space these weeks. And so they're overly busy. She's been getting in touch with them, trying to get the Swasserfine for certain DMC equivalents. And I also called the attic this morning, spoke to Barb. You know, I've never been there, and I really would like to go there sometime, but I'll have to go when there's going to be a retreat, because I can't picture just flying to Arizona to go to a store. So at some point I'll manage to decide that I want to go, that there's a retreat I want to go to that I can get into and go there and be able to visit that shop. In the meantime, Barb was so nice, and she says she'll call me back. Now, I've put my phone on Do Not Disturb because, you know, if she calls during this video, I'm not even sure what will happen, but you don't need to hear that conversation. So she hopefully won't call during the video, and I will not have missed her call, and I can find out what she discovers. In the meantime, I did go on to 123 Stitch, which does carry Swasserfine, and you can, no, it was Hobby House, actually, their website. They show pictures of each spool of Swasserfine, and I was able to come up with what I think might be equivalent colors. But some of their colors, they didn't have a picture of the spool. So it's just a number. And since it's so difficult to get pictures of Swasserfine on the internet, I couldn't even say whether that number was red or gray or purple or what color it was. So it was really difficult to know whether I was looking at all of the best options. Now, if Leslie does get in touch with Hobby House, what they'll do, what she's going to ask them to do is this same task, is here are the DMC colors that I want, the equivalent Swasserfine, and they will figure out what spools those are. This is the same thing I asked Barb at the attic to do. And I'm just going to be really curious to figure out what Barb sends me compared to what I think might be the equivalents. So we'll see. I do think that the attic is trustworthy to make a good selection. That is a problem when you're trying to match colors, because some colors are, I mean, some colors look similar, but there's a little warmer, a little cooler, and all but one of these colors, is that true? Yes, 3 of the 4 colors we're searching for appear in the sampler in DMC. Not, you know, not right next to each other, not over one right next to over 2, but they're in there. And one of them, there's a lot of the Swasserfine stitching. It's the verse, which happens to be the Jesus permit thy gracious name to stand verse, which is kind of cool. But it's far enough away from the other appearance of that color that I don't think it will matter if it isn't the exact warmth or coolness or whatever. And the main color that is, I can in fact show you this. I will stop just talking about it. So here's the verse. This is the same color as one of these borders inside these bands. And this color of the cartouche borders doesn't appear anywhere else in the sampler, and that is, I mean, it's also these letters, and that is the bulk of the use. In fact, I asked Barb to set aside 2 spools of Swasserfine for whatever she comes up with that for that color. So hopefully this will all go well. I'll have that soon, and I can start stitching the over 1. I mean, as you see, the sampler is divided roughly in half. Here, I'm pointing behind the sampler. behind the picture. It's roughly in half. Right here is where the over one starts. And from here on down, other than the outside border and these bows, these red bows, everything is over one. So it's not an insignificant amount of stitching, and it possibly will take 30% more time to stitch each stitch as over two stitching does. I mean, I haven't timed it, although if you know me, if you've noticed how I talk about things, I do like to quantify things. So anyway, that is what I've been working on in cross stitch. And of course, my mind is thinking, well, when I finish Jane Boyer 1834, this big one, what will I work on? What will I make my focus? Because I'm stitching 200 to 300 stitches at least every day on that. And it's the majority of my stitching time is that. And I'm making fantastic progress. How could I leverage that kind of stitching into another project that I would like to finish? Well, of course, there are a few. I want to finish a Robson, which I showed you today. I want to finish Lost, which I'm not showing today. I haven't worked on it, but the little sampler that has that saying about wasting time. And I want to finish, I would like to finish Jane Thompson this year. I think it's doable. Again, I showed you that today. I think it's doable. It's very enjoyable to stitch, and I want to get a good bit of progress on Hannah Campbell. That's just the sort of the sampler side of my stitching. I have other projects going under the roof of Blue Ionian Weather, which I haven't worked on this month. The tiger piece. There's some other things I want to stitch that are not samplers per se. Yeah, life is, oh yeah, and the sampler 193, the red one, I would like to finish that this year. I just need to, again, if anybody knows how to increase the number of hours per day, or to legitimately and without health risks decrease the amount of sleep one needs, I'm up for it. So what else? Variety show. Well, a couple things. We went and visited my son and daughter-in-law last weekend in Tennessee, where they live, and had such a nice time. It was a nice day. It was not too cold. It was relatively sunny, and we looked at the chickens. I'm going to put 1 or 2 pictures up. And we took the dogs out, and my son and I played some video games. Natasha and Scott and I played some games and had a nice meal. Scott fixed a nice meal for lunch, and then we took them out for supper and made our way home. Just so pleasant. And the dogs are really warming up to us. This time there was no need for the handshake and the physical indication. These are our people. You need to guard these people just like you guard us. There was none of that needed. We were accepted very quickly, and the dogs were willing to sit on the couch and with me, being the stranger, and they were willing to be petted, and really with no issue. They were almost normal in their behavior toward us, which was so pleasant. And the chickens are starting to lay again, and they have 3 hens, and when they are all laying, that's more eggs, believe it or not, 3 eggs a day. Well, I mean, I guess that's believable. If I got 3 eggs a day, though, I think I would have scrambled eggs for breakfast every morning, but they don't do that. But 3 eggs a day is faster than they can eat them, so they gave us a dozen eggs, and I fixed some yesterday, scrambled eggs. They're good. They are very bright yellow, extremely bright yellow. It makes me want to make a pound cake or something where you would actually see the color of the eggs. I think it would make a dramatically yellowish pound cake compared to commercial eggs. But it was fun, very fun. The other thing I've been wasting time on is playing video games. So I like to play Nintendo games. We got into Nintendo when Scott was little. My friend Ann actually gave us her Super Nintendo system. I think it was a loan, but I think now we have squatter's rights or something. I've not heard her say she wants it back. But it still works. Scott has it and uses it. And then we got a GameCube. And then we got a Wii, which I think Scott has our Wii. And then we got a Wii U, which was the successor to the Wii. And then we got a Nintendo Switch. And a game franchise that has been throughout all of that time is Pikmin. This is the GameCube Pikmin, the first game. And you are a creature, or you're a person whose spaceship has crashed on this alien planet, and you discover these little creatures which you name Pikmin, which are sort of plants and sort of mammalish animal creatures, but they will do what you want them to do. They'll be loyal to you, they'll protect you, and you can get them to do tasks like carry things and fight enemies. Very, very, very fun, clever game. When this came out, I can't remember when this came out. I wonder if there's a year on this. 2001. So our son was about 7, and he and I played it. We both played it obsessively multiple times. And then eventually Pikmin 2 came out. And this was also for the GameCube. Same idea, you know, where you're the person. There might have even been more than one person in this one. And you harness the loyalty of these little creatures to find stuff and so on. And that was in 2004. Then Pikmin 3, eventually, I mean, a long time later, Pikmin 3 came out. Let's see if there's a year on this. 2013, so 9 years later, finally. Pikmin 3 came out for the Wii U. Excellent, excellent game. They got better and better. And then Pikmin 4 came out last summer, again, after a long wait. Pikmin 4. And it was much promised. It was promised and then not, you know, they said, oh, well, it'll be out third quarter, and it didn't come out many years. But this is just a very enjoyable, pleasant, clever game. It's divided into days, and so there's a stopping point built in, not that it's easy to actually obey it. So just very entertaining and pleasant. And I don't get fully and deeply absorbed in as many things as I did when I was younger, but I can definitely get absorbed in certain types of video games. And it's mainly the puzzle-solving ones, or the ones that require some dexterity but more brains. Now, we certainly have enjoyed over the years the Donkey Kong set of games. Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo way back. That was the first game we played, actually, was Donkey Kong Country. And there are a few offshoots of that, and that's been re-released for the Wii U, I believe. Maybe I have it for the Switch. I can't remember. Certainly for one of the recent systems. Very enjoyable. It's what they call a platformer. And it's sort of a 2D world. Mostly it's 2D. You go side to side in the world doing things and trying to get bananas and stomp on the baddies and that kind of thing. Very enjoyable games. And one of the things that the Nintendo system does that I think is unique to it is its games are, by and large, family friendly. I think most of them are rated E for everyone. A few are rated T for teen. But there are not any really rough games. There are not any really tough ones. that you wouldn't want your 5 or 6-year-old to know that you played. Pretty much Nintendo is stuck to very family-friendly games. And of course they have the Mario Kart racing series. I think they're up to Mario Kart 8. That's the one that we've been playing lately. Very enjoyable. And that game is the only, so I read an article maybe a year ago that said scientists have wanted to test whether the claims that video game manufacturers make that playing video games is good for your hand-eye coordination, for your memory, that it's good for, that there are some benefits to being addicted to video games. They wanted to test to see that was true. So they tested several types of games over a lot of different platforms with groups of people of various ages. And I think in particular, this article was about, does playing video games help older people maintain their cognitive function? And the findings of the study, or studies, the findings were that it does in one particular instance. Generally, all of the games do seem to provide more alertness and more mental function immediately after playing the game for half an hour or an hour or something. One game, one category of games, in fact, one franchise of games provided benefits, cognitive benefits, for up to 3 months after playing the game for maybe an hour. And that was Mario Kart, which is a racing game, and we play it. So I've decided that I need to play that game frequently so that I can maintain my mental acuteness. That and Sudoku. Yes, Sudoku. The Sudoku Grand Prix is this weekend. Anybody of you who's planning to participate in it, I would truly love to know if you do. 90 minutes, however many puzzles you can do. You have to print them, or you can solve them on a tablet if you have a way to write on a PDF. I mean, I can do it on my iPad. And then you have to turn in your certain rows or columns to indicate that you've finished the puzzle correctly, because if those are correct, then the puzzle is correct. And you can do as many puzzles as possible in 90 minutes. I think this round, I counted, I think there are 13 puzzles in 90 minutes. And I would love to do 4 of them. That would be a goal. The point scores are kind of medium-ish for the easier puzzles. So I possibly will be hoping to get around 80 to 85 points. So we'll see. I will certainly let you know what happens about that. So tomorrow, Cindy and I are going to the Quilt Expo, which is put on by the Modern Quilt Guild in Raleigh. It's at the Raleigh Convention Center. And we've been to a few quilt events in Raleigh at the Convention Center before. They do a nice job with it. I think, as I recall, there's plenty of parking. I don't think that's a problem at all there. So that's tomorrow, but it's just a day. It's sort of a warm-up for the quilt show that we will be going to soon. And I will tell you more about that after we go. Next Friday, I will not be making a video, or I will not be making a Flosstube video. It is just possible that I will make another video, a short or something like that. It's just possible I will. But don't count on it. You should just figure you have an extra week to get extra stitching done. That's kind of what I'm thinking. The following week, though, which will be March 7th, 6th, something like that, I will be back to a regular Friday video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that if you are new to my channel, that you found something of interest. If you are returning, I do thank you for that, and I thanks to all of you for commenting, and it's fun, very fun. It's not interaction in the way that it would be if we were on a Zoom call together, but it's almost interaction, and I really love it. I like hearing about what you're working on, what you think, if you have opinions, if you have favorite video games. And I hope that whatever you're doing, whether it's rainy or sunny, whether you're stitching or wasting time on video games or doing Sudoku, whatever it is, I hope you have a great weekend and couple weeks. And I look forward to connecting again soon. Many blessings to you, friends.